Hello Exiles and welcome to my channel. This is Fusion Gaming and we are going to have a quick guide today on Penance brand of Dissipation. Now I've seen a few build guides coming out around this build, and they seem to be all following a different strategy. Now I'm just going to go through mine because there's a few that obviously there's one build that I've seen which is an assassin, which is a pure glass cannon, because that could do upwards of hundreds of millions of DPS, but any monster that touches you, you will literally just die. I saw that last night in the game. Obviously, I was playing with one of my friends, and he literally got sneezed on by a monster, and he died. There is a secondary build which I believe that's been put out, which is an Inquisitor. Now again, there is a bit of lightning penetration in there, but I think that the full power potential lies within the Hierophant, which is what I'm going to go through now. Now you can, at the end of the day, you can decide what you want to do, but what I am doing is I am stacking power charges, okay? So we're going to go through the build today. I'll obviously just kind of explain what it is and where to go and things like that. And a quick item shouldn't be too long, so I'm not going to keep you all day. So first things first, you would pick Templar, and in terms of Ascendancy, obviously we go for Hierophant. Now the main reason we're going for this is because of this node here. We get +4 to minimum power charges, which is absolutely huge in terms of what I am doing. So I am stacking power charges. Now as it stands right now, on the calculations here, I'm running at 14 power charges, 14 absorption charges, which we'll come back to in a second, 14 frenzy charges, and we've got 5 endurance charges. Okay, now that is massive in terms of damage. Okay, now that is why I'm going this way. Second reason why I'm going this way as well is due to the 10% damage taken from your mana, and that is obviously going to help you with a bit of tankiness, but also on here it gives you a bit of area of effect, gives you energy shield, and with this build we are going to be using Eldritch Battery, which up here means that instead of us using our mana, we're going to be spending our energy shield. So this obviously massively helps. Okay, now in terms of leveling, I'll give you a quick guide here until we get to around about Act 4, Act 5, and then you can then decide what you want to do from there. So first of all, you would obviously go up here along this side here. Once you get to here, sorry, I would go up here, sorry, and then down, pick up these for the spell damage and the crit and the resistances, which will help you in early acts. You can then go to this, but don't take the keystone just yet. Just get to here. By the time you get to here, you'll be level 12. Now you can get Stormbrand once you get to level 12, and once you've reached Merveil's Caverns, and you got to the Cavern of Wrath, I think it is. Once you get to there, you can pick up Stormbrand. So if you really want to go into this keystone, then you can do. But if you want to kind of use, if you're using Holy Flame Totem, or maybe you're using something else, then don't put this in just yet, because it will mean that you cannot put any totems down. Then what I would recommend that you do is you then go along here, don't pick up Mind Over Matter, don't pick up the Jewel Socket, carry up here, pick up this brand node here, and pick up the brand attachment range. Okay, it's at this point, if you then want to start using Stormbrand as your main skill, you will have a bit more crit strike chance here, and you will have a bit more multiplier as well, so it will do more damage. You then want to then start heading up here, across and down, and head for this brand node right here, and you want to pick up on there. Brands attach to a new enemy each time they activate. Okay, that also increases the amount of brands that you can have, so you can have an additional 2 brands out. It's at this point now, if you want to go back and now attach this rune binder, you can do, because by the time you get to here, you should be level 28. Now you can usually then equip the two gems. So if you've already pre-bought the gems and you are leveling and you bought them off the trade site, it's at this point you can now put them on. Carrying on, we then want to go across. Now depending on whether you need life or whether you need damage, you have a choice here. So you can either go down and pick up the life note here and go for 50 life, and then go across here and pick up the life recoup, which will give you a bit more survivability. If you're doing fine for life, then I would recommend that you go up here and pick up the damage, which is +1 power charge, and the minimum and the mastery is +3% increased damage per power charge. Don't worry about the dual socket here. Go across. I would then go down and pick up the power charge again. I would then also, if you pick the damage first, then pick up the life now, just so that you got it. Don't pick up this keystone unless you have bought this Militant Faith prior to leveling. This Militant Faith gives you elemental resistances and brand damage for every single 10 devotion, and every single one of these points gives you 10 devotion. The smaller ones would give you 5, and then the keystone would also give you 5. It's the travel skills that give you 10, so you'll get a good chunk of brand damage and a good chunk of elemental resistances. At this point, you should be in around about Act 4, end of Act 3. You then want to carry on, you want to go down here. Now, depending on how much energy shield you have, you could take Eldritch Battery, but if you need it for survivability, then don't take it just yet. Go across here, go across straight to the lightning node here, and get this 40 fizz converted to lightning damage. From here, it's very situational, and depending on, you may need strength, you may need strength. When I got to that point, I needed strength for my gear and for my gems. So at this point, I would then go from here and go down the path. Go down here, pick up all of these health nodes here, or if you really need strength, make a beeline straight for these strength travel points here. So there's 30 strength right here. Go straight for those 3. Then I would then pick up this life, and in terms of priority, I would then pick up usually this Divine Wrath for the more damage, and the hits have a chance to treat their resistances as inverted. I would then usually go and pick up this power charge, +1 power charge, and the +1 endurance charge, just for a bit more survivability. At this point, you should now be like near Act 8, Act 9. You should be coming to the end of the acts at this point. So it's now that you probably want to then start making the most of it. So I would then start spacking into this, and you want to put into more life and a bit more increased effect of consecrated ground. Go down here. You want to pick up this Sanctum of Thought, and then I would come up here and pick up Faith and Speed for the elemental resistances and life. And if you want to take this physical damage taken as chaos, you can do. It's entirely up to you. Or if you want to pick something completely different, again, it's entirely up to you. The mana, I would pick up the mana one here. That would help with Arcane Surge. And then the middle one here is the Mana Reservation. And again, I would pick up the Aura Cluster here and pick this up for Mana Reservation again. It's at this point, depending on when you are in the axe, if you then need a bit more survivability, the next 2 points that you get, I would then take Mind Over Matter and Eldritch Battery, because they will only be 1 point away. Also, if you are now in maps and you are now struggling, you can now take this Chaos Resistance all the way around, and the middle one is Corrupted Blood, so that would be good in maps. Also, going back over here, next thing you want to do is you want to head over here and you want to pick up this Reservation Mastery. Come down here, pick up the life, and pick up the physical damage taken while on full energy shield, which is always going to be the case. So you're always going to be obviously on full energy shield, because casting brands is costs like 6-7 mana. It's nothing. Then go down here, pick up the 30% more spell damage when on low life, because we are using Petrified Blood, so we are always on low life. We also want to pick up this cluster here for the crit speed, crit multiplier, and cast speed. And then it's at this point you then want to then start taking any dual sockets that you may have missed. So over here, as you can see, I have a crit multi for strike, spells, and lightning damage. The cast speed is a dead mod. It was just a nice cheap duel. You can take this one, which is also a crit multi, which again is crit multi, spell damage, and lightning skills. And again, I've got another one over here, which is exactly the same, crit strike multi. So you just want to scale that crit multi up. Then down here, I have a Watcher's Eye, which is damage leeches life while affected by vitality. You are using vitality, and damage penetrates your lightning resistance while affected by wrath. That is very powerful. Okay. Other than that, that's pretty much the tree in terms of where you need to go. In terms of the Ascendancy, I would always go straight for this +4/+4. Then after that, go down and pick up Divine Guidance for a bit more survivability. Then I would go over to Sanctuary of Thought, and then the last one I would then take is Arcane Blessing, which will give you a nice chunk of damage. Now let's go through the items. So the items themselves, so the first thing you would want to get is a we're going to just go through, there's no particular order that you get these, but Void Battery is essential. I played around with one of my friends in the Discord the other day, and he said that you could potentially make a rare wand that could be better. We tried to make one that was ridiculous, and it would have cost hundreds of divines to make, and it still did not beat a Void Battery. So this is superior in every way. After that, we got a Malachi's Loop, +2 to power charges on it, so that gives you +1 to power charge. Malachi's Loop gives you another +2 to power charge, also gives you more spell damage per power charge, and a good chunk of energy shield. Now do not worry about any of the other lines, the one that says lose all power charges when you reach maximum. Because we are using Ralakash's Impatience Boots, we always count as having power charges, maximum power charges. So anything that says you will lose a power charge, or when you lose power charges, you never lose them. So do not worry about that. Helmet, this is another example. We get a massive chunk of evasion and energy shield. We get 5% chance to block spell damage per power charge, and we get elemental damage per power charge. But as you can see at the bottom there, lose all power charges when you block. Well, that does not happen, so do not worry about that. Now this +1 power charge corrupt and the +2 to lightning socketed lightning gems is basically like the best in slot. That is amazing, but it does cost a couple of divines, and it probably may be quite expensive now. So it's entirely up to you whether you want to go for this. If you just want to go for the +1 power charge, that will help you massively. Now the chest early on, I have had a few questions asking this in the chat in the previous video. The chest early on does not need to be Utila's Hunger, because this strength, this base cost me about 15 divine to get it to 6 blue. If you want to run a nice rare chest which has just got like 125 life, a ton of resists, and maybe a bit of aura effect, that's entirely up to you. You can. The only reason that I switched to Utila's is just for a nice chunk of armor, recover life on kill, and the 1000 life. I noticed that on all of the items that I was getting, so all of these uniques, there is no life. So because of that, I thought I would make the most of it. It just means that on the 2 rare items that you use, you can't have any life on them, and that's basically it. So you don't have to run with this if you don't want to. Okay, I've seen a few people running a Diala's Malefaction, but again, it's entirely up to you what you want to run. The chest is completely optional, but it's just for more life and survivability. That's why I decided to go this. To get this 6 blue, you just need to hit it with a Tempering Orb that will then say has no red sockets, and then hit it with a few chromes, and you should get 6 blue. Next one is just some rare gloves. The only thing I wanted on this was just energy shield and resistances, and I needed dex. Okay, for the Eldritch Implicits, you want to go for the increased damage per frenzy charge and physical damage converted to lightning damage. Now we are converting all 100% of our damage to lightning damage. Okay, so all physical is converted. Next, obviously, Ralakesh, we've spoke about. That gives you a little bit of chaos resist, and it counts as having all of your power, frenzy, and endurance charges at maximum. Badge of the Brotherhood. Basically, this means that you have maximum frenzy charges that are equal to your power charges. So if I have 14 power charges, then I would have 14 frenzy charges. Okay. Also gives you a bit more effective elusive on your power charges if you are running with elusive. Next one is a ring. This ring is very, and I will stress, very expensive. When I last checked on the trade site, it was 200 divines. Let's just have a quick check what it is right now. That's not the ring, that's not the ring, this is the ring. 220 divines as of right now. So It is very expensive, so this is the last item in the build that you should get. So you want on it strength and dex as nice attributes. You want on it a resist if you can, one that you may be missing, and you want on it energy shield if you can. No life, nothing else. Just try and keep it basic. If you want to get a giga chet and you want to try and go for like crit multi or something, then by all means go for that, but it is very expensive. Then, so that you don't have to buy 2 of these, just buy Calundra's Touch and just mirror it. That will then reflect your other ring, so you'll have 2 of them. So you'll have another power charge. The final thing is a belt, which you want to try and go for as much lightning resist as you can, because this build does struggle with resists. It does give you another power charge. It does give you a nice chunk of energy shield and mana. There are two implicits that I would possibly go for. One of them is this one with the resistances. The second one possibly is the Wrath has a 20% increased aura effect. They're the best 2 in slot that you could potentially get with this belt. By the time you get to end game, if you are mega rich, if you want to run a Mage Blood, then that's completely fine, because you will then be res capped via your flasks, but just be warned that you will then lose a power charge. And as you can see here, as it says on the belt, power charges obviously imply to absorption charges. Now absorption charges, what they provide is a energy shield recoup. So I have the game open here, so I'm just going to quickly just show you. It says there, players recoup 12% of their elemental damage taken as energy shield. So basically, any only damage can be recouped is over 4 seconds. So basically, anything that hits you is recouped as energy shield. So that means that you are always on full energy shield, which means that this node over here, which said 10% less physical taken while on full energy shield, is awesome, because then you're always going to be on full energy shield. In terms of flasks, I've gone for a life flask, a quicksilver flask, a an onslaught flask, because that does give you a massive speed boost in terms of casting, and I've got tier 1 cast speed on there. I've got a Rumi's Concoction just for the block, and I've got a Taste of Hate for more damage reduction. So Fizz taken as cold, and gain Fizz as extra cold damage. Okay, so that's basically the main parts of the build. In terms of the duels, we'll go through them on here. So again, we've gone through the Crit Multi-Duel, we've gone through the Watcher's Eye, we've gone through the Militant Faith, which is a brand damage and elemental resistances. We've got through another Crit Multi-Duel here, another Crit Multi-Duel here, and then over here, if you're lucky, if you can get a nice That Which Was Taken, I have increased area of effect per power charge, 3% of damage taken from mana before life, so that means I'm now running at 53% 53% mind over matter, so that means 53% of any damage that hits me is now taken from my mana. 5% crit strike multi per power charge, and then the bottom stat was a deadline, just because this duel, with all 4 being perfect, was going to be in the upwards of a mirror, so I wasn't going to be spending that much money. In terms of the gems, we'll quickly run through the gems now if you want. But the main build is 6 link is Penance brand of Dissipation, and you want to run power charge on crit, awakened added lightning damage, but you can always just run added lightning damage until you get the money, awakened lightning penetration, increased critical strikes, and concentrated effect. Okay. Next thing after that, you would then want to go with that's the 6 link, so that's for the rares and everything like that. If you then want to run a 4 link as well, which is what I'm doing, which is for the clear speed, which is for Penance brand of Conduction, then I would run that with awakened elemental focus or elemental focus, whichever one, power charge on crit, and again awakened added lightning damage. Then for auras, we want to go vitality with arrogance and tempest shield, so we always have this turned on. We want to run with zealotry, enlighten, grace, and determination. We want to have them always turned on. We want to finally have Wrath with Divine Blessing and Petrified Blood. Now with Wrath, you will need to activate that, So what I usually do is when I'm in the middle of a fight, as you can see down here, it's not on. When I'm about to get into a big fight, I will then pop Wrath, and it will then last for about 11 seconds. So then that then increases all of your damage by a good chunk, 21% lightning damage, and has a 35% of increased effect, and it gives me a bunch of flat lightning damage as well. Petrified Blood is there for the survivability, so that's always good. And then for movement, we have Shield Charge, Frost Blink. Punishment is a hex that you can put on their head or curse them, and faster attacks. So as you can see in here, I have it here. So what I would do is once I have put the brands on the enemy, so let's say Lily here is the enemy, I would put all the brands on top of her head, and then I would then just spam right click, and as you can see, it just spams the curse on their head. That curse will stay there for 12 seconds. What that means is that once they are on low life, they will start to take 60% increased damage, which is huge. So best thing to do is crack that on their head, throw the brands, put the curse down, and then just run around and try and stay alive, which you should be able to because the build is very survivable. Like I said, there's an effective hit pool here of 51,000. The chaos max hit is only 4,000, but I am trying to work on that. If you want to try and build a little bit more chaos res into the build, then that's entirely your decision. Because I've changed the rings slightly, I'm now at -1 resist. The lightning resist obviously has gone here at 71, but I am in the middle of fixing that, so don't just ignore that for the time being. I'm in the middle of trying to fix lightning resist somewhere within the build by squeezing it into, maybe I'm gonna be replacing my gloves, and I'm going to be getting one with because as you can see there, I'm overcapped on fire and cold massively, so I'm going to try and get one that's got lightning, fire and cold, but lower values. So but that's going to be a little bit expensive to try and get that, so we'll see. Other than that, guys, that is the build. It's a very fun build. As it stands at the moment, it is now doing, let me just go to the notes, it's now doing 621.6 million DPS per second. Now, I'm going to explain this to you because you're going to go into the POB and you're going to see this 96 and you're going to be like, that's not 621. Well, it is, because the way that Dissipation works, let me just put this down, is you would put the brand on their head. Now every time you put the brand on, it creates 4 stages. Now because we are putting 2 brands on their head, that creates 8 stages. Okay, so that is for the first second. Okay, after that the damage then ramps up for the second, and that then goes to 16 stages. Okay, so that's your 78. So 40 million for the first second. For the second, it's 78 million. Then once you hit 2.5 seconds, it jumps to max pulse per brand, which is 96.7, which is this here. But then it hits the enemy for 96.7 from 2.5 seconds all the way through to 7.3 seconds. So if you add that up together over the entire duration of the brand, and as the brand shows in here, let me just bring it up, I think the duration is 7.59 seconds, is that right? Secondary duration, yeah. So it's, I think on my in game, I think it's like 7 point something seconds. Let me just bring it up here. No, can be detached. Hold on, there can be attached for 7.35 seconds. So yeah, so 7.35. Yeah, that's right. So then if you add that up for the first second, that up for the second, and then that up for second 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, for the entire duration of the brand, it's doing 621. If you then divide that 621 by 7.3, you get 85.15 million per second. Now this is against pinnacles. If I go in here and go to configuration, look, this is set to pinnacle. If I change this to Uber, it's still doing 29 million damage against Ubers at max pulse. Okay, which is massive. Now, in terms of this on here, I've not put the Uber damage in here just because it would be a hell of a lot less, but I would say it would be around about 62 million. It's usually around about 10%. 62 million towards Ubers, which again is massive. Other than that, guys, that is the build. If you have any questions in regards to it, let me know and put it in the chat. Other than that, thanks for watching. Stay sane, and I appreciate your time.